And we are live. Hello, good day, good morning, good evening, good, whatever time it happens to be in your local neck of the woods. Lee Hayward here, joined with Jeff Samataro, and welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, December the 9th. So let's see, is this coming through loud and clear on your end? Let's just give it a moment now. Let a few people hop onto the live stream. Let this pop up on the various different platforms that people will be watching from. So we should be streaming on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, as well as my own personal profile page on Facebook. So let us see, is this coming through loud and clear? And if it is, as you're joining into our live video chat today, please type into the chat window and let me know if you can hear me, see me, and all that good stuff. And I am joined with Jeff Samataro. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. I am nice to have you joining in. For the last couple chats, I was going solo. Now, I think I can keep the show rolling by myself, but it's nice to have you joining in to share your insights and feedback along the way. Makes it a lot more interesting to have a two-way conversation versus just a one-way talking head to the camera.
Always happy to be here.
Good stuff. All right, we got some people joining in. We have Sabin. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Finally able to catch a live show. Yes, you are. We've got Khalid saying hello. Hello, Lee and Jeff from Robert. And Lee Dunnigan saying, I can hear you guys loud and clear. Excellent. We have Chris joining in from England. Welcome. These are all most of these are regulars. Sabin, I don't believe is he's able to catch the live, so I don't think I recognize your name from the live streams in the past. So welcome. Glad you are joining us in live. I guess you probably catched us on some of the replays that we've had in the past. So that's the way most people do catch these, obviously on the replay. But if you are able to join in live, that's extra special. We have Neil joining in from the Philippines. Who else we have there? Rescue 4. Holla. I'm going to holla at you. I guess that's how I pronounce your name, Mr. Rescue. Rescue? Oh,
Rescue.
Oh, Rescue. Oh. Ha-ha. Right? I'm slow to catch on. Don't mind me. Right? Okay. So again, for a lot of people joining in, excellent. So we know this is working. This is coming through loud and clear. So again, the way these video chats work is myself and Jeff, we are going to be hanging out here for an hour, and we are going to have a hard stop at the end of an hour because Jeff actually has a gig to play tonight. He's playing in a band. He plays with the Conniption Fits and have been for several years. How long have you been playing with the Conniption Fits, Jeff?
I'm going on 5 years with the band now.
5 years. Have you been in another band before this one?
I have been in a band since I was 11 years old. So
Okay.
Yes, I've been in many bands.
Jeff's a rock star, literally. Literally a rock star, and he's going to be rocking this video chat with me today. But he has a gig tonight with the Conniption Fits, so we're going to have a hard stop in 1 hour. So I've got my timer there going, so we'll keep an eye on that. And where are you playing to tonight, Jeff?
I am playing at the Clipper Tavern in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
All right. What did you say? Clipper Tavern? Is that what it's called?
Clipper Tavern in Portsmouth. Yes. Beautiful town in New Hampshire. If you're ever in New Hampshire, you got to visit Portsmouth. It's a beautiful city. So
if anybody watching in the video chats, by chance, is anybody in New Hampshire watching the video chat right now? And if you're looking for an evening of entertainment, you can go watch Jeff. Clipper Tavern.
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Who knows? One of these days, that's going to happen, right? You're going to have somebody come up to you. Oh, I was watching you on the video chat, and now I'm here watching you on the on stage, banging away.
Well, I'm hoping to take the band to Newfoundland one of these days, Lee, and you can show me around.
You'll have to do a George Street tour.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds great.
You'll have to look that up when you get a chance. Google George Street, Newfoundland. That's our street of bars, if you will. I think
they got music.
Oh yeah, I think it's like the most condensed bar to area population of anywhere in North America. It's literally just a street of bars and taverns and pubs, and yeah, there's live music there. I don't go down there very often. I used to frequent it quite frequently when I was a young man, especially in my single days. That's where I met my wife.
Ah, yes.
Back before the days of social media and Facebook, right? When you actually had to, meet people face to face and in person.
Mhm.
Yeah, those days, right?
Those days,
The,
yes, those
lo- the
archaic days.
right, the lost art. You know,
The lost art of talking to people face to face. Yes.
yes, exactly. The lost art of talking face to face, right, and having to man up and get the courage to go out and approach the woman and try and woo her with your charm in real time. I must have had some charm. I've had a lot of failures, but I did have some charm at some time or another. All right, let's jump into it now. Let's see. We got a lot of people joining in. So again, the way these video chats work is we're going to be hanging out here for the next hour. We're going to be answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition. So if there are any specific challenges that you have when it comes to your workouts, any specific challenges when it comes to building muscle or losing fat, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window. And pretty much anything goes. Like if we can help you out, we will do our best. If we can't, we'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can. But anything goes related to fitness, nutrition, health, wellness, that type of thing. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and we'll do the best we can to help you out. Now, getting on to that, one thing I know, Jeff, we were kind of briefly chatting about earlier before we started the live stream. You recently joined a new gym. So tell us a bit about that. Where are you training to now, and what are you doing as far as a new workout routine?
Yeah, so I'm really happy because I found a gym 20 minutes from my house that specializes in calisthenics and like Olympic ring work, yoga, and isometric type of work. And I've been looking for something like that for a long time now. So I'm really excited.
Nice.
I really got into calisthenics working out at home, and I have Olympic rings at my house and pull up bars and dip stations and all kinds of stuff. And I just
Yeah.
been kind of doing it on my own. But I found somebody at this gym here who coaches, and I'm excited to start making some progress in that realm,
Nice.
and try to change it up a little bit.
I respect that. Yeah. I mean, I know from following along with your progress and helping you, I mean, you've certainly made solid progress when it comes to your overall strength. But one area in particular that really stood out to me as above average is your pull-up strength. Like pull-ups are a hard exercise. And I know you worked up to doing literally sets of 20 plus pull-ups with good form. Not these,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't want to badmouth it, but not some of these kipping pull-ups where people are using less than ideal form. But I've seen you literally do 20 strict pull-ups, which is quite impressive by, I think, anybody's standards. So now you're at this calisthenics gym. And is this like a gymnastics gym? Is that what it's like? Or like what do they have as far as equipment is concerned?
Well, they have like a power rack with squat, with like an Olympic bar, so you could do like squats. And they have dumbbells and stuff like that. But a lot of it's like they have rings that are suspended from the ceiling. So you can do muscle ups and other types of moves like that. And then they have lower rings. They have like a hardwood floor, so you can do all types of like yoga movements and stuff. I think that's cool too. Is that we train barefoot, which I thought was kind of neat.
Okay.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of neat. And actually, I've seen a huge progress in a lot of my lower body movements from practicing barefoot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, you're actually engaging, the muscles of your feet and the balance and the stability, and that feels different, I'm sure. Like from someone who's used to working out with sneakers on all the time, to
Mm-hmm.
actually do that barefoot feels totally different. I can kind of relate because I'm coming from a martial arts background, like back this years ago. I mean, obviously in martial arts, when you step on the dojo floor, it's barefoot. But yeah, that feels different to run and move and do your exercises barefoot versus with sneakers on. Yeah, interesting. And now you're working through the full range of motion because flat foot versus the arches of the sneaker, engages different muscles. It feels different for sure. So how long
Yeah.
have you been doing that for? Tell this new gym.
I joined about two weeks ago, I think, 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Okay.
And I started doing some one-on-one sessions with the guy who runs the gym.
Nice.
And it's very humbling because I mean, I've gotten so good at my routine that I do at home. that, I mean, I've been doing that now for over 5 years. And
Right.
I don't know, I'm just looking to kind of try to change it up a little bit and try something different. And it's humbling because you're starting at the beginning and there's a lot of progression and things that I need to do. And it's something different. So it's something I'm not entirely comfortable with, but I've tried to never ever shy away from doing the things that are uncomfortable and unfamiliar. That's what got me to where I am today. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going with that idea and that mindset.
Absolutely. I respect that. I mean, that's a powerful skill to develop. I refer to this as the ability to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And that is going to take you so far. I mean, it's taken you far already. I mean, you're quite successful. I mean, you're working in the music school, you're working in the, playing in the band. So I mean, like, you're already in these environments where you're putting yourself on the line in that area. But again, you're willing to get outside your comfort zone and try something totally new when it comes to the fitness. And I respect how you're getting coached, because like Jeff is a fitness coach. Like, he's working with me over at the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, helping to coach the people who are going through this program. But even as coaches, we continue to get coaching. And right now, I'm actually going through a coaching program myself. I'm working with Precision Nutrition, doing their Master Health Certification program that they have. And I find like that is really taking things to the next level. And it's what I'm working on now is not so much on the tactical side of like, okay, helping someone to set up calories and macros and workouts and exercises. It's how to deal with with this thing, how to deal with the psychology and the lifestyle and the habits, and helping people to overcome the mental blocks and that we have when it comes to fitness and nutrition. Because most of the time when you're talking to somebody, like, they know what to do. It's just for some reason they can't get themselves to do what they know. And an analogy I always like to use in that situation is, think of someone trying to quit smoking. Like, everyone knows smoking's bad for them. If you haven't figured it out yet, like, I'm sure most people know, but still about 20% of the population still continues to smoke, even though we know it's kind of been proven that there's negative side effects to smoking, but people still do it. And a lot of people who smoke want to quit, but for some reason they can't. Now, the tactics of quitting smoking are very simple. You stop putting cigarettes in your mouth and you're a non-smoker. Like, it doesn't get any more simple than that. It's not like, I don't know what to do. Just don't put a cigarette in your mouth. That's it. Boom. Right? It's like, how do I get in shape? Well, you got to start eating right and you got to start exercising. Like, a lot of people say, well, I know what to do, right? But then how do you do that? That's where it gets challenging. Like, how do you implement that into your lifestyle? How do you actually make it part of your routine and everything else? That's where it gets challenging. And that's what we're really focusing on in the whole Master Health Certification, is helping people to get past those mental blocks and hurdles and start taking some baby steps in the right direction. So I'm currently going through that. That's a 6-month coaching program that I'm embarking on. And it's going quite well. I mean, even at my level, I've been doing this for over 30 years. There's a lot of ahas, and there's a lot of things like, oh shit, I've been doing that and I really shouldn't be doing that. Like, I'm learning things that I've been doing wrong. So I'm looking forward to, the following year, like 2023, I think is going to be a good year, because I'm learning a lot of things, how I can step up my game and improve. So it's nice to see that you're also doing the same as well. You're stepping up your game and learning to improve. And something I always encourage people to do, right? Don't get to this little bubble where I know that, or I know it all. Because once you say you know it all, you close off. But once you approach that beginner's mind, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and the possibilities are endless. So again, I'm excited to follow along with your progress with this and see how you take things to that next level with regards to your training. And I'm willing to bet you're going to see some big improvements over the coming weeks and months. Like, I'd say within 3 months, there's going to be a noticeable change in just your overall strength and athleticism and in all these different areas that you're focusing on now. So how often are you going to the gym? This new calisthenics gym? Like, does you have a structured routine that you're doing?
So I have a one-on-one coaching session with the guy once a week, and then I do a lot of the stuff at home. And I also video record myself performing some of the movements, and then I'll send it to him, and he'll give me feedback on it as well.
Okay, so you only go to this gym one time a week, and then the rest you're still training at home.
Yeah, he also does like group classes and things like that as well. But I mean, with being a musician and stuff. Like, I mean, it's hard for me to get there on the times where the classes are happening.
Right.
So I just went right for the one-on-one coaching. I was
Yeah.
honestly, I was gonna do that anyway. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Good. Excellent.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. So
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, how you combine that with your current training routines. I'm sure you're still going to implement your core weight training and cardio on that, but this is going to be like an extra thing. So obviously you're going to have to manipulate your schedule around, because this is one thing it brings up a good talking point here. When you are going to add something to your routine, you have to make room for it, unless of course you're doing like nothing. Because if somebody's starting off from scratch, and you then, okay, you can add in some exercise into your routine and not really have it take away from other activities you're doing, because you're currently kind of like starting from ground zero, but you need to build it up. But in your situation, where you're already kind of maxing out strength and cardio and have a routine for that, now you're adding in this other element. We got to balance it out, because think of like your recovery. Like, you only have 100% recovery. It's not like you have 100% recovery for cardio, 100% for weight training, and 100% for other sports and activities. You got 100% total. And how do you divvy that up amongst all those other activities? And this is something I've noticed myself, like as I've gotten more serious into cycling, like I've had to scale back some of the other areas in order to allow the recovery and the demands of the cycling training. So I've cut back. Like, my weight training workouts now are probably 2 to 3 times a week max. If I'm doing a lot of cycling, it's 2 strength training workouts a week. If now that we're transitioning into winter and everything else, I've been doing less volume of cycling. So I've been doing a bit more volume in the gym. So I've been doing about 3 weight training workouts a week. But it's not like you can go 100% in the gym with weight training, 100% on the bike, and 100% with whatever else. Like, you got 100% total. So it's just a nice little mindset to keep in mind, factor it in and to scale back and adjust things accordingly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to following along with that progress, Joe. Now, with that being said, let's jump in and see if we have any questions or topics of discussion from our live viewers. So, again, let us know where you're tuning in from. We got Neil's a regular over in the Philippines. Good morning, Neil. Neil's in the future. What's up, Jeff?
Not much. What's up, Neil?
He misses you. I send you a question on your Facebook account. Okay, well, I'm on. Where am I to? Send me a question on Facebook. All right, I'm looking for that. I got a lot of questions, or a lot of messages in Facebook. I will find that. I'll come back to that, Khalid. All right. I'm scrolling through. There's a gazillion. We got Lisa joining in. We got Rescue from Oregon. Oh, we got a lot of just people welcoming themselves. Welcome, David from Italy. I think David. I don't recognize that. Bobby's joining in. There's some new names here. I'm not new names for me. Okay. No, that was a different New Hampshire, Chris. Right?
That's the original Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire.
Right, yeah, he's an old Hampshire.
The old Hampshire. Yeah.
He's OG Hampshire there. Only bar I enjoy is at the gym. That's a good habit. That is a good habit. Yeah. All right. We have a question there. And hi, Lee and Jeff. Any alternatives in reducing shoulder pain from the bench press, overhead press, rows, and pull-ups? Thoughts about shoulder impingement and stretches? Jeff, do you have any issues or thoughts that you want to share on this? I'll let you take it away if you have any insights to share here. This is a comment.
One of the best stretches you can do for your shoulders is hang from a pull-up bar daily. Just do a dead passive hang and hold on for you can start with 30 seconds and then try to build yourself up to like a minute and a couple minutes. I mean, it's a daily practice for me is I hang from a pull-up bar and keep my legs and my feet straight, my toes pointed down, decompress the spine, and it puts your shoulders in their natural alignment. It feels amazing. And it stretches everything. It stretches your lats, your upper back, your traps, your shoulders. And if you hold it long enough, like, so I have a pull-up bar that I have that's like, it's going like I'm going down my stairs, and I have it like up here. And when I hold on to it, when I jump up to it initially, my toes don't touch the ground. But after you hang up there long enough, eventually you could start to feel your toes starting to touch the ground.
Really? Okay,
It,
yeah.
yeah,
You're elongating and
you're just
decompressing.
elongating yourself. Yeah, it feels great. So like shoulder, shoulder stretch is great. Another one that's really good is if you have, I've been doing this with Olympic rings. Actually, I've been doing what's called a German hang, which is where you like hold on to it, where it's like you're holding on to it with your arms behind you like this, right?
Oh, right. That's pretty
Yep.
intense. Very intense.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a little difficult to do, and you might have to build up some strength to do it. But let me tell you, it totally opens up your chest and your front delt and all of this, and it feels great just because like you get so used to just kind of like hunching over all the time, and it just kind of opens all of that up. It feels great, like that, like neck stretches, things like that,
Mhm.
just to try to get your try to get your get rid of that forward head posture and that hunching over. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, those are some big stretches for sure. But one thing we got to factor in there as well, if somebody does have some pre-existing shoulder pain and issues, they may not be able to do, like, hanging from the pull-up bar shouldn't be too extreme unless you got like a serious injury right now. That what did you call it?
A German hang, yeah.
German hang.
That
Okay.
that is more intense,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
But if you
I've
if
now that you've explained it, I can recall seeing people doing it. I just didn't know the name of it before, but that's pretty intense. But you can do a similar movement, like, I don't know if I can show you here in my rack, where you literally grab the barbell and kind of like open up your chest and shoulders that way. I mean, it's a similar movement,
Mhm.
but it's not as, obviously you're not supporting your entire body weight. That's a great one for, again, for opening up those areas without placing a lot of stress there. But one thing for reducing pain in those movements, uh, you got to look at how you're structuring your shoulder workouts, or just the workload in general. And one thing I find is very powerful, and this is something we've incorporated into our training, um, is to balance out movement patterns. So, like, if you're going to do a horizontal press, you want to follow it up with a horizontal pull. If you're going to do an overhead press, follow it up with an overhead pull. If you're going to do a chest fly, you want to do some sort of reverse fly, or band pull apart or something, to work opposing movement patterns. And by working that, that helps to keep the muscles, tendons, and ligaments and everything in balance and proportion. Because what often leads to pain down the road is when you have an imbalance of, you're doing more movements for one side of the joint or muscle than you are for the opposing side. So the agonist and antagonist. And this is common, especially for new people who join the gym, because they want to work the show off muscles. They want to work the chest. They want to work the arms. They want to work the abs. They want to work what they're seeing when they're looking at themselves in the mirror. You don't see your back when you're looking in the mirror, unless you can kind of look around. I don't know. I can see my back a little bit there, but you know what I mean? Yeah, you want to work what you see in the mirror. But then what happens is, after so many years of doing that, you start to get overdeveloped in these frontal areas. And again, leads to that hunched over. You got all this tension built up, and then the back is the weak link. So building things in balance and proportion right from the start. So I was thinking of opposing movement patterns. Now, it doesn't have to be in the same workout, but over the course of time, you want to have at least equal volume. And if you've been neglecting certain areas, like you've been a chest and biceps guy for years, and you've been neglecting the back and everything else, then you want to focus maybe on even increasing the volume of those weaker muscles to help balance it out. But that's what you want to always strive for: balance, work in opposing movement patterns. And that's how I structure my workouts now. So, like, whenever I do an exercise, I always think of both sides: a horizontal press, horizontal pull, overhead press, overhead pull, arm curl, arm extension, leg curl, leg extension. Like, if I'm going to do a core exercise for the abdominals, I want to follow it up with some sort of lower back exercise. Always thinking of both sides of the body, the agonist and the antagonist. And I think if you structure your workouts in that way, that's going to have a huge impact in preventing future injuries down the road. Another thing, just talking on this issue, if you are currently suffering from some pains and issues now, it'd be worthwhile to go see like a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or someone who can probably work on you one-on-one and just to see what kind of issues you have, because it's hard for myself and Jeff to diagnose what you're going through a comment. But if you're meeting someone in person, they can work with it. And this is something I actually had to do. Like back the summer, I went to see a chiropractor for several sessions to help alleviate some issues that I had, and it helped a lot. Right? I mean, like sometimes you see these videos and stuff where they're aligning your neck and relax your head, and all of a sudden, like they crack. Right? Like, it looks and sounds pretty freaky, but man, like when he does it, like whoa, like it doesn't hurt at all, but it's like, yeah, and that feels good. And then all of a sudden, like all the everything's loosened up and frees up the tendons and the ligaments, and now you're getting better blood flow and circulation. And yeah, it's really cool. But I mean, the first time he did it, right? I mean, I knew what he was going to do, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be freaky, but like cracking your knuckles, and all of a sudden now your fingers feel more limber and loose. You just crack your neck, right? Don't try that at home, for God's sakes, right? You're not responsible for any neck injuries caused from this. But it's worthwhile to see a professional on that. That's what I would do if I was in your situation, right? Don't suffer it out and like hope it'll get better on its own, because usually there's better ways to go about stuff like that. All right, let's see what else we've got. Rescue is starting a cut. I'm only going to use sweet potatoes as a carb source only. Should I be worried about the sugars that sweet potatoes contain? Do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to talk about this? Or
you seem like you got a lot to say about it, so why don't you go first?
I just sweet potato, even though it's sweet, it's actually a very low glycemic carbohydrate. It's not like candy sugar. I mean, like from a glycemic index, it's not going to be spiking your blood sugar, and I would not be worried about sweet potatoes. And another thing I have to ask, why? Like, unless you got some sort of bulk discount program with the local sweet potato manufacturer, or like, why only limit yourself to sweet potatoes? That's almost like saying I'm going to work out, but I'm only going to limit myself to bicep curls, right? What are your thoughts on that? Well, you're neglecting a lot of other things that you could possibly be doing to help build your physique. Like, instead of having this limited, I'm only going to do this, or I'm only going to use that. And this is, I'm not blaming him. I mean, this is a common theme you see in bodybuilding. Like back in the bodybuilding days, it's getting better. Don't get me wrong, it's getting better. But like back in the old school bodybuilding days, when there was a lot of bro science going around, you would see competitors saying, I only do fish, right? And they wouldn't say I eat. They'd always say I do. I don't know why. Like people didn't eat food. They do food. But they would say, I only do fish during my cut, right? So I go 12 weeks eating nothing but fish. What do you have? I fish and water. Like, well, if you only ate fish and water for 12 weeks, like, no shit, you're going to lose weight. But like, it's not healthy. It's not balanced. Just think of all the potential nutritional deficiencies you're getting or could be developing. I mean, it's not a good idea to have these limited mindsets when it comes to food choices. So like some people say, I'm only going to do fish and rice, or I'm only going to do fish and potatoes, or sweet potatoes, or whatever, or like think of instead of thinking of the bad foods you need to eliminate or trying to have this minuscule choice of foods, think of like all the healthy foods that you can add in there. Like you can have you could have potatoes and sweet potatoes, and you could have quinoa, and you could have rice, and you could have oatmeal. Like there's so many good, and then oodles of different fruits and vegetables that you could add in there. Like Jeff, what are some of your favorite carbohydrate foods that you eat on a regular basis?
Yeah, all those that you just mentioned.
All of them. Right?
Yeah. Quinoa, potatoes, rice, oats. I have oats every single day. Love oats. Yeah. Vegetables. Yeah. I mean, I don't shy away from mixing it up with those types of sources here, because I mean, nobody You know what's funny though is that I was actually talking to somebody a couple weeks ago who was saying the same thing about fruit. They were like, "Oh, I'm not going to have any fruit because of all the sugar inside of fruit and stuff." And I just like you just have to stop and pause for a second and be like, have you ever met anybody who's gotten fat eating fruit, or who got fat from eating potatoes, or fat from eating like other sources of carbs and stuff? It's like it's not that you got to worry about when it comes to the sugar and all that. It's like it's like the processed sugar, like candy and stuff like that, and soda. That you
Mhm.
got to worry about. Not things like sweet potatoes. You don't got to worry about the sugar in sweet
Right.
potatoes. That's not gonna be make you fat. So
No. I
yeah.
mean, there may be some rare exceptions where that is an issue, but for the average person, no, it's not an issue whatsoever. And you need to really look at the bigger picture and think of another thing you have to look at too is, can you live like this for the rest of your life? Like, are you
Mm,
going to only eat sweet potatoes for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, and you're like, this is only a short term thing, then guess what? If it's a short term thing, then the results are short term. It has to be a lifestyle change. It has to be something that you can see yourself doing long term, not just for, hey, the next 2 weeks or the next 3 months or whatever. It's like, can you do this for the rest of your life? Can you see yourself like 10 years from now only eating sweet potatoes day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? Like 10 years from now,
yeah.
you're waking up to a breakfast of sweet potatoes for the 10th year in a row. Like however
Mm,
many days that is, 3,000 odd days. Like, no, you got to have variety. You got to have it build into a real world situation and real world eating habits. So I'm not a
yeah.
fan of this limited idea. You want to have a wide variety of food. And if you want a better understanding of this rescue for, what I would recommend, head over to my website at leehayward.com. And right there on that's my blog. And right there, you'll see a link to an ebook that I put together. It's called Ripped After 40. And this outlines the bigger picture of what Jeff and I are talking about here, like how you can structure your lifestyle and your eating habits and everything else to have a sustainable fitness and fat loss transformation while enjoying the process and not feeling like you're suffering it out on some restrictive diet. So I recommend
Right.
you head on over to. I actually have a link to it in the description of this video as well, the direct link. But if you want, you can go to my website leehayward.com and check it out as well. It's also on my Facebook profile, depending on where you happen to be watching this. In fact, okay, you're watching it from YouTube because I see the YouTube logo there, but it's over on Facebook or it's over on my website. That would be a good step in the right direction. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that limited food choice mentality. And I'll just touch on this and then we'll move on. That approach does work. Don't get me wrong. Like if you said, hey, I'm going to only eat limited foods, like I'm only going to eat fish and sweet potatoes for the next 12 weeks. Yeah, you would see results for the next 12 weeks. But like if you can't sustain it long term, the results are only short term. And then if you go back to your old eating habits, then you're going to undo the progress you made. And it's just the yo-yo diet syndrome all over again. That's why these crash
Mm,
diets never last long term, right? It's not the before and after we want to look for. It's the before and the after. And then what about a year after that, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years after that? Like, are they still making progress years after? Very often it's not. It's like before, after, and then get fat again. That's the typical diet cycle. All right, let's move on. We have Joe joining in, wondering what's a good recommendation for daily water intake. Well, I have a sip of water, Jeff. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, I don't. I used to like try to drink like a gallon a day or something like that, but like I carry around an Nalgene with me, a 32-ounce Nalgene, and I drink that. I mean, periodically throughout the day, and then I
Mhm.
just kind of like I pay attention to like the color of my urine pretty much. So like if like yeah, so if it's like
Works. It
really
works.
if it's really dark, then I know I got to drink water, right? But if it's like
Mhm.
transparent, then like I know I maybe need to calm down with the water, or I'm
You're
at
good.
least hydrated enough. Yeah, exactly. You're good. So yeah, I try not to overcomplicate it, like measure it out and track it and all that stuff. I drink a lot of water. That's like all
Good.
I drink essentially is like water and like
Mhm.
seltzer water and stuff like that. But no, I don't measure it out.
That's a perfect, what you just explained there is ideal. And it's one of those things, it depends. Like, it depends on your activity levels, depends on how much you're sweating, it depends on how big you are. Like, there's no one size fits all answer. Like, some people say, oh, you need to
Yeah.
consume X number of ounces per day, or they'll try to throw out these calculations where you need X number of ounces per pound of body weight. And you don't need to overthink it. Like, drink to satisfy your thirst. That's number one. And a little tip is, try to stay ahead of your thirst. Like, try not to get to the point where you're thirsty. Like, when you're like, oh my God, I'm parched, I need to drink. Like, don't try to avoid getting to that point where you're really thirsty. So staying ahead of it. And how I do it, right? I got a bottle of water everywhere I go. This is my little strategy. Like, when I go to the gym, I got a water bottle. When I go anywhere in the car, I got a water bottle. In fact, I keep a case of water bottles in the car as a backup. But everywhere I go, when I go for bike rides, right, I got 2 water bottle cages on my bike. So I got water everywhere I go, and I'm just sipping it regularly. So I try to stay on top of it and avoid letting myself get thirsty. And then the benchmark again is, when you go take a leak, what color is the pee, right? If it's light yellow, clear, you're good. If it's dark, then that's a sign that you probably need to be drinking more water, just like Jeff mentioned. So that's kind of like your little check-in, and that you're going to have that multiple times a day, especially if you're drinking water. So you'll know if you're on the right track, and that's it, right? Just use that as your benchmark.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Right? You don't need to be breaking out calculators and tracking apps and whatever. I mean, you could if it helps, but you don't need to. Just be consciously aware of it. We have Rob joining in. See Rob Jones. What's up, guys? Being a 400-pound guy, is it best to work out with intensity but pace myself and lose weight at a decent pace, or go aggressive with it because of the weight being carried? First off, 400 pounds is a big man. That's big. But the secret here is pace yourself. And this applies to anybody, regardless of your fitness level, your size, or whatever. Like, start off slow, progressive, and build from there. So I'm just going to go back to what we were talking about earlier, Jeff. You just started a new gym and totally new workout routine, doing the calisthenics at the new gym. Did they have you jump into doing high intensity, aggressive workouts from day one, or was there some sort of base building involved?
Oh, of course there's base building, and you can't force your body to change. Like, you just have to pace yourself and take your time and let it happen naturally. And as long as you're working at it consistently daily, it's going to change over time, as long as you're consistent and you're disciplined with what you're doing. But don't force anything. Forcing anything just leads to injuries, and it's just. Yeah, just take your time. I know it's hard because, with me, I'm doing the calisthenics thing. Like, I'm looking at these guys doing these handstands on the rings and these levers and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. But if I just jumped into it and just tried to do it right away, I'd probably end up injuring myself, and then it would lead to a long road of recovery, and I'm just gonna get there a lot slower than if I would have just took my time and progressed slowly over time. So I would say take your time and just focus on being consistent daily over short-term intensity, long-term consistency over short-term intensity, right?
Absolutely. And we need to look at it from another thing. Like, you didn't get to 400 pounds overnight, right? That didn't happen in the matter of a few weeks or a few months, or anything. That took years to build up to that. Like, slowly piling on body fat, pound by pound, over the course of several years, until you got to the current size you're at. Like, you didn't wake up one day like, holy, what the hell? I'm 400 pounds. Where'd that come from? It just didn't, magically appear. That took years. And quite honestly, probably decades even, to build up to that. So think of a slow process of losing it. And kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the previous question. If you can't sustain it long term, the results are only temporary. So if you go in there and you start working out like a madman, and we're going to see this in January. Like, we're right into the holiday season now, and a lot of people are going to be Christmas parties and junk food and holiday treats and alcohol and all the festivities, which always revolves around food and drink. And then once it's all said and done in the new year, people are going to be like, oh my God, I feel so fat and lazy and guilty and blah. They're looking at themselves in the mirror and they're going to be grabbing the roll of belly fat and they're like, oh, I feel like shit. I look like shit. That's it. No more. I'm going to do something about it. And then you're going to see the gyms are going to be like the January spike, like all the gym owners, right? They're like, counting the cash in advance, right? Because they know people are going to sign up for the January memberships. And they're going to start working out like a madman, right? They're going to go on some crazy cutting diet of whatever it is, but some extreme diet, working out like a madman, probably in there for hours a day. And they might sustain it for a week or two, and then they're burnt out, either mentally or physically exhausted, but very often could lead to an injury. And this happens so often. Like, even when I tell people about trying to pace themselves, people still have that tendency to just want to go pedal to the metal right from the start. It's hard to go slow. It really is. But you have to kind of train yourself to think of this as a long journey. It's not something that's going to happen in a matter of a few weeks or a few months. This is going to take years. Like, in order to potentially lose 200 pounds or whatever your goal is, again, I don't know what your specific goal is, but it's not like, even if you lost 100 pounds a year, which is very rapid and advanced fat loss, like that's above average fat loss. That's a 2-year journey. It's not going to happen in a matter of months. So that you have to be thinking, where do you want to be, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? And if you can't sustain whatever approach you're taking for that long, then it's not going to last. So it has to be this slow, gradual progression. And it's hard to wrap your mind around that initially. But if you do, the time is going to pass anyway. That's the thing we got to realize. Like, you could either be slowly progressing, or you could jump in and try to do it all, in some crash diet, get frustrated, burnt out, and say, screw it, F it, I can't do this. And then go back to your old habits and then ultimately get fatter and gain even more weight. But the time is going to pass regardless. So you could be slowly making progress so that within the next 3, 5, 10 years, you could be at your ideal body weight and sustaining it and enjoying the process. Or within the next 3, 5, 10 years, you could be potentially 500 pounds or bigger. Like, that's the reality of this. That's where you had to think of, like, it's not where do you want to be by summer or whatever the short-term goal is. Where do you want to be in 10 years from now? And, like, honestly, I mean, I'm saying this from a position of genuine care and concern. Like, if you keep going down the road you are, like, will you even be around in 10 years? Like, at that weight, with all that stress on your heart and your organs and the potential, diabetes issues and heart issues and all that, right? Who knows? Right? Actually, it's ironic. I had a gentleman reach out to me who signed up for the Muscle After 40 program this week. And the reason he signed up is because he had a good friend of his who died of a heart attack in his early 40s. Right. So, this is real stuff. Right. So, I mean, we can't take life for granted. Right. You got to look after it. But
can I add something?
Please do. That's why I want you here.
Yeah. I think when you have a long road ahead like that, I think what you really need to focus on is enjoying the process and enjoying the journey, because you're right, is that you're looking more at like a year from now, 2 years, 5, 10 years. And in my experience, the journey is the most enjoyable part.
Yeah.
The destination is not the most enjoyable part. Like, it's the process of getting there where you make the big changes, not just physically, but like who you are as a human being, and changing your core values and your lifestyle and all that. That's where the real enjoyment comes from. So, like, just start making small changes, start looking for progress, celebrate those small changes and those small progresses, and just keep going and use that as motivation to keep going. But just enjoy changing, enjoy trying something different, becoming somebody different, and becoming the person that you want to be. And don't worry so much about reaching whatever goal it is that you're striving for, because you'll get there eventually.
I'm glad you actually brought that up, Jeff, and that really triggered a lot of thoughts for me as well. One thing I love to do is, watch documentaries and read about people who are super successful, like whether it's athletes or different business professionals or whatever. And very often when you see someone who's at the pinnacle of their sport, their game, their whatever, and then people are interviewing them and saying, what was your favorite part of the whole journey? A lot of times the pinnacle is not the favorite part. It was the struggle and the journey along the way when they were, the rookie, the underdog, coming up. Like, they enjoyed that challenge, that they enjoyed seeing that progress. And I remember I was watching a documentary of Ayrton Senna, famous Formula One driver back in the day. He got killed ironically, he got killed in a Formula One car. But when they were interviewing him, he was, at the peak of his game, he was unbeatable. Nobody could touch him in Formula One racing. But when they were interviewing him, saying, what's your favorite part? He didn't like the high end Formula One racing because there's so much politics and business and, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't about the pure sport of racing. And then he said, what? Back when I was a kid racing go-karts, that's what I like. That was his fondest memories, working his way up the ranks from that. That was the most fun. So very often, even if you did hit your ultimate goal, that's probably not the what you're going to look back on as the most fondest memory. It's just the journey, the struggle, the challenges along the way. Yep. And the ironic thing is, you're never done. There's always another level. Regardless of how good you get, you're going to see someone else who's better. Prime example, there's a lot of people look up to you within our coaching program, Jeff, and say, wow, look at the transformation Jeff's made. He's done it. He's made it. And now you go to this calisthenics gym that you're joining, and you're looking at all these guys oh, I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah. Back to square one.
Right. There's always another level, and there's always going to be someone who's better. And then vice versa. There's always going to be somebody who's worse. Even in Rob's case, he's looking at himself as 400 pounds and everything else, but there's probably other people out there, and there are, who are 500 or 600 or heavier, and they're looking at Rob and saying, man, I wish I was where he's at. They're looking at him with envy. There's always people at a higher level, and there's always people at a lower level. And it's instead of getting caught up with the comparison, and just enjoy where you're at right now in the moment and focus on getting better. And that's where the true pleasure in this whole journey is, just in the progress. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jeff. That's a huge point. And that applies to everybody watching this, regardless of where you're at or what your goal is, whether it's building muscle, losing fat, or sport specific, or whatever. We have thy verdum yes. Awesome stuff. Thank you for the comment. Much appreciated. Rick is saying, did that apply to treadmill walking barefoot? Oh yeah, I guess he's referring, when you mentioned earlier that you guys are training barefoot. Do you have cardio equipment at that gym?
No, but let me tell you, we're moving so quickly that your heart rate's up. It's a lot of, it's very little rest, bouncing from exercise to exercise.
Yeah. Coach Lee Hayward, yes, and Coach Jeff Samataro. Once you refigure out the end game, the result is better than all the small temptations. There's some truth to that for sure. We got people joining in. Hello, Jeff. Hello.
Hello, Joe.
I joined in from work. Don't tell your boss. I appreciate it, but your boss doesn't. Right? Yeah, I can imagine your boss. I never paid you to be watching that YouTube video, blah, blah, blah. Get to work.
You gotta get your boss watching it too.
Yeah, there we go.
Then you're all set. Get the whole office watching it.
Where else are we to here? Sorry there. It all depends on your fitness goals, what you're aiming for in your workouts. All right, it must be people are commenting to other comments there. All right, Bobby's asking, what do you think about fasting? Jeff, have you ever done any prolonged fasting? We got a couple opinions there. What do you think about intermittent fasting? What do you think about fasting? That's the same one. That's from Bobby. But yeah, we'll definitely touch on that now. Mm-hmm. Jeff, have you ever done any fasting in your fat loss journey?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think of the longest fast I ever did. I mean, I want to say I did like a 16-hour fast one time. I've never got like I've never done like a full day fast or anything like that.
Really? Okay. That's
The
so
prob the problem is I like to eat. I know
you couldn't even
it's
make
really
16 hours?
is that not a lot? I don't know. I mean,
No, I mean, in the fasting world, no, but
that's
here,
not a lot. But
no.
yeah, I don't know. I like to eat. Like I don't know. Like I've lost weight eating 3 square meals a day and having a dessert before bed and all that. So like I don't know. I enjoy eating, and so I don't. I mean,
Right.
I've tried it before, but I
No,
didn't particularly enjoy it, so I
right.
didn't stick to it. Yeah.
No.
How about you? How about you? Have you done
Yes,
prolonged fasting?
I've done a lot of crazy stuff, tried things, and I'm grateful that I've tried it because now I have some, background and experience to understand the pros and cons and things. With regular intermittent fasting, a typical protocol is something along the lines of maybe like 16-hour fast and an 8-hour feeding window. And there are some merits to it, like depending on the individual, what it is you're trying to achieve and what it is you're struggling with. There are situations where that may help. And in my early days of trying to lose weight, I mean, when let me reframe this. When I let myself go, got the dad bod, and then I was trying my get back in shape after 40, which is where the whole muscle after 40 blueprint program came about. In the early phases of that, when I was getting back on the horse, if you will, there was a while where I was doing intermittent fasting, and it actually worked quite well because simply eating fewer meals and having that limited feeding window prevented a lot of that mindless snacking that I was doing, and it helped to control my calories. And I wasn't very active, right? Like, because I mean, I had a newborn baby at home at the time, and I was not sleeping well, not being active. Like, it was a struggle for me to be consistent with exercise. So, physical performance wasn't top priority. It was just, hey, I just want to lose this gut that I'm carrying around. And intermittent fasting actually helped with that in that type of situation. So, I mean, I did it for a while. I did it for over a year, following that kind of. It was generally like a 16-hour fast, 8-hour feeding window, but it would vary. Like some days it was longer. Like I might fast for 20 plus hours, and just I had one big meal a day. I did that for a while and it did work. But what I found was the drawbacks with that approach. When I was in the fasting window and you get into that routine, like as long as I kept myself busy, I could avoid eating and I could go hours on end without food. And as long as I kept myself busy and, I'd drink water and I'd sometimes drink coffee to help curb my appetite, just black coffee. And then I was okay. I could keep myself preoccupied. But then once I settled down, I said, okay, now I'm going to start eating. It was like opening up the floodgates, and there was like no controlling the appetite after that. And very often what happens in the fasting situation is it lowers your inhibitions for making poor food choices. So like at the end of the day, your blood sugar is low, you're not thinking straight, and you're like, well, I deserve to have that slice of pizza. After all, I didn't eat anything all day. I deserve to have a piece of dessert, after dinner. I didn't eat all day, right? I deserve this. And then, okay, yeah, you didn't eat all day, but now you're making all these poor food choices when you do eat, or you're sometimes eating in excess. So the most important thing, it's not when you eat, it's still what you're eating and how much you're eating. And what was ultimately happening to me once I got into the routine of intermittent fasting is I was still not in a calorie deficit, despite the fact that I was limiting my food intake to a feeding window and not eating throughout the day. So when I did eat, I was just eating in excess. Sometimes it was eating good food in excess, right? I mean, I just eat and go back for a second helping and eat and kind of like constantly grazing during my feeding window, if you will, and end up, I wasn't creating a calorie deficit anymore. So from that point of view, it's not always the holy grail that a lot of people make it out to be. Another big thing, and this is why I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting now. From a physical performance and sports performance, muscle building, all that kind of stuff, it's certainly not ideal. Because if you're trying to focus on improving your athletic performance, you need that steady supply of food throughout the system, throughout the day, to keep your blood sugar stable and provide your body the optimal nutrients to build muscle and have that ideal, steady nutrition in your system. And with intermittent fasting, you're not getting it. You're literally just starving yourself for part of the day. So from a pure fat loss point of view, if somebody's really overweight and got a lot of weight to lose, yeah, there are some merits to it and it can help in those situations. But once somebody's at a lean physique and you're trying to now improve body composition and improve athletic performance, build muscle, all that, I certainly wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting. And that's why you rarely see like high level athletes will do intermittent fasting. Like very rare will you see like professional bodybuilders and athletes of any sport partake in intermittent fasting. It's usually it's more in the fad diet category, if you will, not a sustainable, optimal. But as far as different types of fasts, I've done some crazy fasts. Like I even tried prolonged fasting. The longest I've went without food was 4 days.
Oh my, what?
4 days. Because
4 days.
And you know what? There's these prolonged fasts. I've seen some of these crazy prolonged fasts before where people go literally sometimes weeks at a time without eating. And not saying that I recommend this, but I mean, I'm just saying it's been out there. And yeah, it works. Obviously, if you're not eating food, you're going to drop weight. Like I think I dropped 16 pounds in 4 days, but a lot of that was water weight. As soon as I started eating again, guess what happened? It's just like letting the air out of a balloon, then just filling it back up again. So the 16 pounds that I dropped by the end of, 4 days in, within 4 days after that, I mean, I probably had 20 pounds back on. So, I mean, it's not a long-term solution by any stretch, but I mean, I did it. And it's interesting how your body responds. Like it's good from an educational point of view, just to see how it works. Day 1 was torture. Day 2 was not so bad. By day 3, there was no hunger at all. Like it's really? Like there was zero hunger. It's like your body is into ketosis and everything else, and it just stabilized. And like from day 3, day 4, even on day 4, it's like I'm not hungry. Like I could go longer, but I think I should eat. I haven't eaten anything in 4 days, but like there's zero hunger at that stage. And I think that's kind of like a survival mechanism. That's part of the reason why we've able to survive as a species. We can go prolonged periods of time if you're in a famine situation. And it's weird how that works. But like once I got beyond the second day, there was like virtually zero hunger. It was like, yeah, I could eat. I'd like to eat, but I really don't need to.
What were your energy levels like during that? Like, were you still able to exercise?
It was very limited. I mean, like I could do some low intensity things, like, you could just walk and do your day-to-day chores and stuff. But as far as like trying to push yourself in terms of a gym workout or something, no, forget it. It wasn't ideal by any stretch for that. And I wouldn't want to, because I mean, you're basically putting your body in a catabolic state with nothing there to rebuild afterwards. So it's kind of like, just a negative situation.
Right.
But it's interesting how the body responds, because once you get beyond that initial phase, it's like there was no hunger. It was weird, right? But from a practical point of view, I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, again, you need to look at improving your eating habits in general, not looking for the quick fix, right? Which is what we do now. And I mean, obviously it's working for me. It's working for Jeff. It's working for a lot of people. And then you'll see just better eating habits in general instead of looking for the quick fix solution. Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got there. We got Billy saying, "Hey, Big Lee, Savage Beast, keep up the great work on your videos. It's helping people more than you know. Cheers," with a muscly arm. Thanks, Billy. Much appreciated.
I got to get you a Savage Beast t-shirt for Christmas. That's coming your way.
All right. You heard the story about the Savage Beast, didn't you? You must have.
You told me about that, Vince Del Monte. Yeah.
Like, it wasn't planned at all. It was just we were just shooting a workout video together, and this is like totally unplanned, unscripted. Like there was just pull up the video and started. Here, I'm doing a set. You video me. We just passed the camera back and forth as we were working out together. And then he said, "Look at this guy. He's a savage. He's a beast." And of course, that just I don't know, it went viral. Like some of those videos that we did together, like literally got over 1 million views. Right. So it just, I that was back in the good old days of YouTube. Right.
Yeah, there's worse nicknames to have.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just, yeah, I've been called much worse than a savage beast. Anyway. Moving on to Lee. Lee Dunnigan's joining in. Great point about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, this year, I've brought this train of thinking into my training and also into my general life, and it does work, and it's really rewarding. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad to hear that that is working for you. That's actually a line I've heard. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable is a line I've learned from Toastmasters, which is a public speaking group. Because obviously, if somebody's going to be doing public speaking, which is, well, statistically the most uncomfortable thing. Like when you look at the greatest fears that people have, speaking in public is right up there. In fact, people fear that more than they fear death. Now, I don't know if some, like when you look, when the people are list out the ranking, like what do you fear the most? Public speaking is always number one, and like death is ranked below public speaking. Now, I'm sure if somebody had the gun to your head, you'd probably get up and speak in public, but it just goes to show that it is a big fear. So yeah, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It's a good mindset. We got some repetitive questions there. All right, let's see what else we got. How are we doing for time? We're going to have to clue this up shortly, aren't we, Jeff? So we're getting close to our hour. Yep. All right. David is joining in. What are your thoughts on hitting the biceps, triceps with compounds, superseded with isolation lifts to burn the muscle out? Will this be as effective as training them separately? I wonder, when you say in compounds, I guess he means bench presses and rows, that type of compounds. That's basically what I do. I mean, I'm not necessarily supersetting them all, but I do compounds and I do isolation exercises. And yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Jeff? I have my thoughts, but what are yours?
I superset biceps and triceps, but I, because when I'm doing compound lifts, I want to be as strong as I possibly can during that. So I wouldn't want to like do like a bench press and then go like hit tricep push downs like immediately after or something, because then that would affect my next set for my bench press. Where I want to, yeah. So I superset biceps and triceps like at the end of my workouts sometimes, instead of like doing a set of biceps and then like taking a rest and then do another set of bicep. Like I'll do a set of biceps, then go right to triceps, and then go right to biceps with no rest. And that's a quick way a way to be quicker with your workouts, so you're not wasting any time.
Yeah.
But personally, I wouldn't superset the compound lifts with an isolation like that, because it's going to negatively affect your compound lift, your next set.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. From a muscle pump point of view, you'll probably get a good pump and a good burn and all that, but you have to think like, what is your main training focus? If you're trying to build muscle, build strength, I would totally agree with what Jeff said. You know, focus on the compound lifts, maximizing your strength. Now, with the biceps and triceps, you can, focus on higher volume and getting the pump, because they are not power muscles. And I find anytime you try and train biceps and triceps, especially the isolation with heavy weight, your form goes to crap. Like if you try and start lifting heavy bicep curls, you start heaving and swinging and everything else. So the biceps and triceps and a lot of isolation muscles, the smaller muscles, I find they do respond better to more volume, more time under tension, focusing on the pump versus simply moving heavy weight. But those compound lifts, those are the areas where you can focus on moving the heavy weight. So now, with that being said, anything you do consistently is going to produce results. Like if you superset compounds and you superset your isolation exercises, or the compounds with the isolation, is better than sitting on the couch eating Doritos. Right? I mean, it's going to produce some results. But is it the optimal way? I think you could, again, hit a plateau very quickly with that approach, because you're not allowing enough recovery between those compound exercises to fully maximize the strength, as Jeff mentioned. So again, the big thing you got to look at, and this applies to like virtually every workout program out there and every split, like you're going to find there's some people who do it and get great results and enjoy it. And hey, if you enjoy it, you're getting results, do it. Right. I'm not, just because that's not what we do doesn't mean that it's wrong. I mean, if you find it working well and you're getting results, hey, do it. But you got to be open to different ways of thinking. Like I mentioned earlier about the whole intermittent fasting thing, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of it personally. I have done it. I have had some results with it, but it's not what I want to do now, because it doesn't meet my goals and my ambitions at this stage of the game. But for someone else, it may be just the thing that they need, right? They might need that type of approach to help them stay on track. And if it's working for you, you're getting results, then yeah, do it for a lot while it's working for you. But again, be in the moment and be aware of what's happening. Like, if you're not getting the ideal results you want from it, then don't be afraid to look outside the box for some other alternative methods. And that's what I ultimately did when I was following intermittent fasting. And initially it worked. I did lose some weight and did see some progress with it, but it quickly plateaued. And once it was plateauing, and then I like, this isn't giving me the results I want, then I wasn't so stubborn to say, well, I'm going to still do it. Right. I'm not getting the results, but I'm going to still do it. No, I'm willing to change my approach and take on some new methods and learn from the experience and grow from it.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot more questions coming through here, but I guess we'll get ready to clue it up because we are past the hour there now, Jeff.
I can do one more. You want to do one more?
All right. Let's see. Is there anything jumping out at you? That's a question there. I'm looking through here. One more. Who's going to get the last question? Not that we have a personal preference of who gets the last question. I'm just there's a lot of comments here. All right, it's people responding to what we've already talked about, which appreciate the comments there. Take me longer to find a question than it is to answer a question. Yeah, there's really just comments coming through. Okay. All right.
I got it.
All right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If I eat all my calories in one meal, I'm sure that's what he means. Would that be okay? No, that's getting back to the whole fasting thing. That's not ideal. That's not ideal from a digestion point of view and everything else. Like, can you imagine that, Jeff? Like, what are you currently eating? Just say you're eating 2,500 calories a day. You sit down and eat 2,500 calories in a meal. I mean, yeah, you could do it. Yes, you could survive and everything else. But is it optimal? No. Yeah.
No.
So,
unless you want to be insanely uncomfortable for the next 24 hours.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's not optimal, right? Anyway, you said you had something you wanted to finish off with?
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, what does Harvey want for Christmas this year?
What's Harvey want for Christmas this year? What doesn't he want for Christmas? We've got a kind of like a smorgasbord of gifts for Harvey this year for Christmas, but there's not really one set theme. That's one thing we've noticed. There's a lot of little things that he's getting into, but one thing he's been doing a lot more of lately, which is pretty, he's really creative with like crafts and art and stuff like that. So we have some gifts related to that. But there's not really the one big theme gift, if you will, this year. There's a lot of little things, and but he still has the superhero theme, right? Like, when you get Spider-Man, like he's still in Spider-Man, and we've got all different Spider-Man suits. We have some superhero costumes coming. And just to let you know, like every day at the Hayward household is usually a dress-up day. I feel like Mr. Dress-Up. Do you know who Mr. Dress-Up is, Jeff?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't have kids, no, but go ahead.
Okay. I think it was only in Canada, but when I was growing up back in the day, Mr. Dress-Up had a kids show on TV. I think it was a Canadian show. That's why you're probably not aware of it, but that was the whole thing. Like, he had his tickle trunk, which was this great big trunk, and was all full of outfits. And every day he'd dress up as a different theme, and then interact with all the characters and stuff on the show as a different theme. So it was Mr. Dress-Up. So anyway, I feel like Mr. Dress-Up sometimes, because every day here at the Hayward household, Harvey's, it's going to be Superman one day, it's going to be the Incredible Hulk the next day, it's going to be Spider-Man another day. I tell you one that he's been dressing up as lately, and you'll probably get a kick out of this. he's been watching some of the old Mr. Bean shows. You know Mr.
Okay.
Bean, right? Rowan
Yeah,
Atkinson,
yeah.
Mr. Bean.
Of course.
And like, Mr. Bean, they're on Netflix and stuff like that. So we've been watching some of those. Like he's seen them in that. And we're seeing some like Mr. Bean's Christmas specials and all that. So he's actually been dressing up and acting like Mr. Bean. So he has his Teddy and he's trying to go around being foolish like Mr. Bean. So he's been doing that.
Have you ever showed him the Mr. Bean invisible drum set video?
No, I have to look for that one. I didn't see that one.
Oh,
Mr.
I'll
Bean
send you that.
invisible drums. Okay.
I'll send you that one. That one's great. Yep.
Yeah. But, and
Cool.
what's another one that he's been doing? He's been watching the old time Popeye cartoons, like the old ones, like back in the 30s and 40s and stuff like that. Like the real old ones. They're on Amazon Prime, and he's been watching that. So we actually did a drawing together. We sat down at Harvey's art table, myself and him, and we drew a Popeye picture. I should share that up on my Facebook group. I was quite pleased with my artwork with that one. But yeah, he's been doing Popeye, and tell you what, if you want your kids to eat their vegetables, especially spinach, of course, watch Popeye, because it's ironic. Like he'll go and he'll watch Popeye when it comes on, the cartoon comes on, and he'll literally go to the refrigerator and get the thing of baby spinach, and he puts a handful of baby spinach in a bowl. So every time Popeye starts, Harvey grabs a handful of spinach and shoves it down his mouth as well.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
So,
that's
definitely.
one of the things that Harvey's been doing. But again, there's not one key theme other than dressing up and pretending to be someone cool.
Yeah. Well, send me his Christmas list. I want to get him something this year. I'll have something shipped up to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Anyway, Jeff, it was awesome to touch base again. Like I say, I appreciate your feedback that you share with these video chats. It's much appreciated and insightful as well. And I'm sure people watching in, they enjoy the comments and feedback you share. So hopefully we'll be able to do another one of these next week. We'll try and work it into your schedule somehow.
Yeah, I'll try to make as many as I can. I really enjoy doing this. So I'll definitely make an effort to be here next week.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to it and hopefully have a good gig tonight. Enjoy, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds great.
Take care. And for those of you watching the show, hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you do have any other questions, comments, or feedback about anything that we discussed, or if we didn't get around to your question, because I know some more probably popped through as we were cluing it up here, feel free to email us or message us. You can contact us through Facebook, or you can send us an email. And I got my contact information and Jeff's contact information down in the description below this video. So if you do need any further help, feel free to reach out to us. And in the meantime, have yourself a great weekend, and we'll be in touch and have another of these video chats next week. All right, take care. Over and out. End the broadcast.